The fire glowed softly inside the wandering inn. Outside, the evening sky slowly turned to gold. The innkeeper reached for an old lantern. Its glass shimmered quietly, yet no flame burned inside. He placed it gently upon the table. There are many markets hidden in this world. Most people never find them. He smiled. They only appear when someone is ready. The lantern remained dark. They don't sell jewels. They don't sell gold. They trade something far stranger. The innkeeper looked toward the window. The things people no longer wish to carry. For a moment, only the fire could be heard. Then he opened another weathered journal. Its pages smelled faintly of cedar. On the first page, there was only a small drawing, a young girl, standing beneath the evening sun, without a shadow. The innkeeper smiled gently. This is the story of a girl who believed she could leave her sadness behind. He turned the page, and how she discovered that even our shadows deserve to be loved. Far beyond the quiet valleys stood a peaceful village. Its gardens bloomed through every season. Its stone paths echoed with gentle footsteps. People smiled often there. Yet among them lived a girl who smiled a little less each year. No one knew why. Perhaps even she no longer remembered. Each morning she greeted every neighbor kindly. She helped carry heavy baskets. She watered flowers outside her cottage. She thanked everyone with a gentle smile. But every evening, when the sun stretched low across the road, she always stopped. Her shadow rested quietly beside her, long, dark, faithful. She looked at it for a long time, then whispered, "If only you would disappear, perhaps I could finally feel lighter." The shadow never answered. It simply remained beside her, waiting as it always had. Then, one autumn evening, just as the village clock rang 7, warm lanterns slowly appeared at the edge of the square. One by one, wooden stalls quietly appeared. Warm lanterns glowed above them. The evening air smelled of cedar and fresh bread. Children wandered between the little shops. Old travelers smiled softly. Everything felt impossible, yet strangely familiar. The girl walked slowly through the market. One stall held tiny bottles filled with forgotten lullabies. Another displayed clocks that only moved at sunset. An elderly woman folded blankets that somehow smelled like home. Every corner invited quiet wonder. Then, at the very end of the market, stood the smallest stall of all. No colorful banners, no bright decorations, only an old wooden table. Behind it sat a silver-haired merchant. His smile was calm, kind. Above him hung a simple wooden sign, "Things Left Behind." The girl stopped. The old merchant looked at her. "You've been carrying something heavy." She lowered her eyes. "I don't have any money." The old merchant smiled gently. "I wasn't asking for coins." A gentle breeze drifted through the market. The lanterns swayed softly overhead. The old merchant spoke again. "There are many things people wish to leave behind. Fear, regret, loneliness. They believe life becomes easier without them." The girl stood quietly, then looked down. Her shadow rested beside her feet, silent, patient, as it always had. She hesitated. At last she whispered, "I don't want people to see my sadness anymore." The merchant listened. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he smiled. "Sadness cannot be traded." He glanced toward the ground. "But your shadow can." The evening grew perfectly still. The girl looked once more at the familiar silhouette beside her. It had followed her through every sunrise and every sunset, without asking, without leaving. She closed her eyes, took a slow breath, then quietly nodded. "I'll trade it." The old merchant simply smiled, and somewhere beyond the rooftops, the last light of day slipped beneath the horizon. The next morning, sunlight filled the village. Birds welcomed the day. The bakery opened before dawn. Everything looked exactly the same. The girl stepped outside. She paused, then slowly looked down. There was no shadow. The trees cast long shapes across the road. Every rooftop painted dark patterns upon the ground. Every traveler walked beside a familiar silhouette. Only she stood alone. For a moment she smiled. Her heart felt lighter, quieter, as though a weight she had carried for years had quietly disappeared. The neighbors greeted her warmly. "You seem happier today. You look brighter." She smiled back. Perhaps they were right. As she walked through the golden morning, the sunlight followed her, but her shadow did not. Days quietly became weeks. The strange feeling of lightness remained, but something else slowly took its place. One morning, the girl crossed a small stone bridge. The river reflected the bright blue sky. She looked into the water. There was her reflection, but beside it, nothing. No familiar silhouette, only empty light. She stayed there for a while, not knowing why. Another afternoon, children laughed beneath an old oak tree. They chased each other's shadows across the grass, jumping, spinning, laughing without worry. The girl watched from a distance. A gentle smile appeared, yet something inside her quietly ached. She had never noticed how comforting a shadow could be until it was gone. Autumn slowly deepened. The evenings arrived earlier each day. Golden light stretched across the quiet village. Every house, every tree, every traveler walked beside a faithful shadow. Only she walked alone. One evening she stood inside her little cottage. A single candle flickered on the wooden table. Its warm light filled the room. She looked down. The candle cast shadows everywhere, across the walls, across the floor, across every chair and window, except beneath her. The empty space felt strangely cold. She whispered into the silence, "I thought you were the sadness." No voice answered. Only the tiny flame danced gently in the quiet room. For the very first time, she wished her shadow had never left. Winter arrived quietly. Snow covered the rooftops. The village became softer beneath the blanket of white. Every morning, the girl looked down before taking her first step. Every morning, the ground remained empty. She no longer wished to hide her sadness. Instead, she missed the quiet companion that had followed her through every season. One winter evening, the sky faded into lavender. She wrapped herself in a warm coat and walked toward the old marketplace. Fresh snow covered the square. No lanterns, no music, only silence. She waited. The village clock began to ring. One bell, then another. As the final echo disappeared, tiny amber lights slowly appeared through the falling snow. One by one, the wooden stalls returned. Warm lanterns glowed against the winter night. The evening market had come back, just as quietly as before. The girl walked through the familiar paths. Nothing had changed. The bottles of forgotten lullabies, the clocks that only moved at sunset, the blankets that smelled like home. At the very end, the old merchant was waiting. His gentle smile was exactly the same. "I wondered when you would return." The girl stepped closer. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I've come to buy back my shadow." The old merchant looked at her kindly, then softly asked, "Are you certain that that was what you lost?" The girl lowered her eyes. "I thought my shadow carried all my sadness." The old merchant listened quietly. Snow drifted gently between them. Then he smiled. "My child, I never kept your shadow." She looked up in surprise. "But I traded it." The merchant slowly shook his head. "You only stopped seeing it." Silence settled across the little market. The lanterns flickered softly. Then the old man pointed toward the snow beneath her. "Tell me, when was the last time you welcomed every part of yourself?" The girl searched for an answer. None came, only the quiet sound of falling snow. For the first time, she realized she had spent far more time running from herself than listening to her own heart. The old merchant gently lifted a small lantern. Its tiny flame glowed with quiet warmth. A shadow is not where sadness lives. He held the lantern between them. It is simply where light has not yet reached. The girl watched the little flame, its gentle glow reflected in her eyes. She said nothing. The merchant smiled. You believed your shadow was your burden, but it was only walking beside you. It never judged you. It never left you. It simply waited for you to turn around. The winter wind became still. The lantern burned peacefully. For the first time, the girl wondered if she had mistaken a faithful companion for an enemy. The girl looked into the quiet flame. A warmth spread gently through her heart, not because the sadness had disappeared, but because she no longer wished to hide it. The old merchant carefully placed the lantern back upon the table. When you stop fighting your own heart, your shadow will find you again. The girl frowned softly. I don't know how. The merchant smiled. You don't need to search. You only need to stay. To stay with your fears. To stay with your tears. To stay with every part of yourself without turning away. The snow continued to fall, peacefully, slowly. For the first time in many seasons, the girl felt no need to become someone else. She only wished to become whole. The girl carried the little lantern home. Its gentle light stayed beside her through the quiet winter night. She stopped searching for the shadow she had lost. Instead, she began noticing the small gifts that had always remained. The warmth of morning sunlight, the sound of birds before dawn, fresh bread cooling on a windowsill, the laughter of children floating through the village square. Some days, the sadness returned. She no longer pushed it away. She welcomed it gently, like an old friend who only wished to be heard. Little by little, the emptiness inside her began to feel less like a wound and more like a place where kindness could quietly grow. Spring quietly returned. Snow melted into gentle streams. Tiny white flowers appeared beside the village paths. One golden afternoon, the girl wandered beyond the hills. The air smelled of fresh grass. A warm breeze danced through the meadow. She stopped among the blossoms. Without thinking, she looked down. For a heartbeat, she saw only sunlight. Then, stretching softly across the grass, a familiar shape appeared. Her shadow. Quiet, gentle, faithful, just as it had always been. The girl smiled, not because it had returned, but because she finally understood it had never truly left. The girl stood quietly, watching her shadow sway among the flowers. Nothing about it looked different, nothing magical, nothing extraordinary. It simply followed, as it always had. She took one careful step. The shadow stepped with her. She turned toward the sun. It stretched across the meadow. She laughed softly, a sound she had not heard from herself in a very long time. At that moment, she understood. The shadow had never been her sadness. It had been the quiet proof that light had always been nearby, even on the days when she could no longer feel it. She closed her eyes and let the warm spring breeze brush gently across her face. For the first time, she no longer wished to leave any part of herself behind.
Far away, inside the wandering inn, the innkeeper gently closed the journal. The old lantern upon the table flickered once. Its tiny flame slowly faded. For a while, neither of you spoke. The room felt warm, peaceful. Outside, the last light of evening stretched across the quiet road. The innkeeper looked toward the window, then smiled. People often fear their shadows because they mistake them for darkness. He softly shook his head. A shadow is never born from darkness. It is born because somewhere there is light. The fire whispered gently behind you. The little lantern had gone dark. Yet somehow, the room felt brighter than before.
The innkeeper carefully lifted the old lantern. Its glass caught the last colors of sunset. He held it for a quiet moment, then placed it back upon the shelf. Many people spend their lives trying to escape themselves. He smiled gently. But peace doesn't arrive when we leave our shadows behind. It arrives when we stop running from them. Outside, the evening sky slowly faded into blue. One by one, the first stars appeared. You finished the last sip of warm tea. The front door of the wandering inn opened softly. A cool breeze drifted through the room. Nothing more. The innkeeper looked toward the quiet night. Another traveler has found their way home. Somewhere beyond the hills, a young girl walked peacefully beneath the evening sun. Her shadow rested beside her, silent, faithful, and no longer something to fear. Because even our darkest silhouette is only possible when our light still shines.